Oh my goodness, just die, you...
He's regenerating again.
This is impossible! It's likely due to that purple orb merged into his shoulder. He might stop healing if we cut it off.
Then I will!
That reaction's a first. Your guess was dead on.
It still has an effect even after being severed. It needs to be destroyed.
Big old purple guy that goes, I always come back. That's a reference. Not an intentional reference.
You stay there!
Not on my watch.
We'll be at this all day if we don't pierce that orb. Give me a second, I'll figure out a good way. Ah!
There's no time. Come on.
Oh, Jubilee and pristine animation.
We'll keep him occupied for you.
Your future is yours to liberate. It's right there. So go on and take it.
Nadia! Swin! Get him!
It's over for you!
Die, you motherfucker. You know, I had forgotten that we had left that stone unturned.
There's two people who can decide how we live, and that's me and S.
And the only place you belong is in the great beyond.
We can finally breathe.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, I was forgetting about that. Whew.
Thanks for the help, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, hey, Sight. I guess, like, I did mention that you guys were in the area, technically, right?
I sensed something strange and raced to find it. But never could I have predicted its source.
It's nice to finally have ourselves a proper conversation. 2 years is an awful long time to meet but never speak.
2 years is but an instant to me. But I suppose it is a considerable amount of time to a child of man.
Wow! He talks! He really does talk!
Yes, a wolf isn't normally one to talk.
Jubilee, have you met him before?
But neither is a doll. Him doing it is no more surprising than you doing it.
Really? She's got a point.
When did abnormal become our normal?
When you joined your organization, I'm pretty sure there's nothing normal's happened to you since then.
So she really is a doll. She has such an unusual air about her. It's a bit like Kia's.
Ooh. I wonder if that could be a thought. Someone's trying to was trying to recreate Kia. That's why they were going after her. I don't think that's like that. I only am really thinking of it because they're like sort of pointing it out, but.
Was she designed by Jorg?
Indeed. I'm Lapis Rosenberg, and I'm a proud Rosenberg doll. You know him?
For many years now, yes.
Checking another one off his weird circle list. First I learned he's friends with a cutie like Ren, then Bullcut went and called him Meister. And now he goes way back with a talking wolf.
I feel like he just knows everyone in the Crossbell area.
For all I've heard, he remains something of an enigma.
So, you are the divine wolf Sight.
I assume he was just in the area and sensed it. I'm trying to think of, like, there could be another reason, but...
The holy beast. sent by the goddess to watch over the Septarian of Mirage.
You are correct, Auric Awakener. Though, I have long been relieved of that role.
As have I of mine.
What are they talking about?
It's called a lore, Lapis. You have 10 games to play. Now get to it.
Beats me.
Exceedingly rare as it is to converse with a holy beast, that is not why we're here. We come armed with many questions regarding Lapis, Mr. Grimwood. Could you spare us some of your time?
I'll tell you all that I know. There'd be no reason for me to be here otherwise. If we could start this with you telling me what you know and what's happened since you've met her, I can pick up from there.
Of course.
I see. So that's where we stand.
All good to fill us in now? Who is Lapis, and what's going on here?
Let me start this with a bit of background information. Starting with me, rather. As you can see, I'm an inmate, but I'm still working as a legal advisor, even from here. I wanted to find a way to contribute to society rather than pass the time idly. I can't thank Speaker McDowell enough for arranging me to do just that. I was even given a computer to work with those on the outside, though it understandably has its limitations. My accommodations also have allowed me guests, which explains how I've been caring for Shizuku. All in all, I have an unusual amount of freedom compared to your standard inmate.
Yeah. I will say, though, it must have been a fun conversation. Hey, Shizuku, we're gonna go see Uncle Grimwood. And she's like, yay, we get to play in the prison cell again.
Gotta get me some of that pampering.
Well, get arrested.
I agreed to his arrangements as Governor General. Letting a man of his intellect rot in a cell would serve no purpose. His communications were, of course, monitored when this building was under the Imperial Army's jurisdiction.
A relative point. See, shortly after the war's end, someone managed to contact me. They called themselves Elysium.
Okay, so that's similar. I think that's something that's popped up before. Is that what, the professor said?
Elysium.
Someone said Elysium at some point. I remember that name coming up, or that word coming up at least.
As mentioned, communications had been cut off since before the war, so this shouldn't have been possible.
Or maybe I'm thinking of the Babel thing? I don't know anymore. Fuck my memory. Either way, it reminds me of what the professor was talking about being contacted.
The prison staff showed no sign they had noticed this contact either.
They must be about as skilled a hacker as I am, then.
I thought they were a hacker at first, too. But when I asked why they reached out, they said very simply, I wanted to talk to you.
What a peculiar response.
Very peculiar. And since they piqued my curiosity, I happily obliged. After that, we communicated in secret every day.
What did you talk about?
Anything and everything.
Like, actually?
All fields of history, technology, research, and ideology I could think of. And though they honed in on certain aspects most would raise an eyebrow at, I was stunned by how much they knew about each and every one of these subjects. I felt near ignorant in comparison.
Wow, they knew even more than you?
Oh, it wasn't even a competition. They knew more than easily accessible old history, too. Their library of information was also niche and remarkably up-to-date.
See, I get the feeling that this Elysium is an AI, basically, right? The singularity in question. So it's basically like, what if Wikipedia went rogue?
It could have been from the last meeting between government officials or the new menu of a backstreet stall. They knew.
Ooh. That is beyond Wikipedia. Neat.
Everything I could verify was accurate.
It's more just a funny image that popped into my head. Speculating, though.
Gathering information is easy for skilled hackers, but absorbing that much on such a wide variety of topics is, difficult.
That's a whole lot of work for nothing but bragging rights.
In short,
I'd thought much the same, and that line brought Rise to a very strange conclusion.
Which was?
That despite Elysium's vast knowledge on these endless topics we discussed, there was no real reason for them to have gathered it.
Is that really so strange?
When people seek out information and knowledge, there's always a purpose behind doing so.
And, you know, you do things for a reason because they're cause and effect of it's basically motivation. They don't need to search for knowledge on the basis of no purpose. It's just not necessarily a purpose of using that specific information. I'm going to pose the same train of thought that I had previously on the AI singularity part. You search for the knowledge because you're curious, because you're learning, because you're growing, because you're seeing positive effects on yourself, or what you interpret as positive effects via that. Why, a baby learning depth perception will reach out, even though, for all they know, their hands could be about to go into the jaws of a wolf.
It can be to accomplish something, or for those bragging rights you mentioned, or it can be they house a curiosity for the unknown.
Yeah, okay, he's basically getting at it.
But no matter how much I talked to Elysium, I could not discern a motivation behind knowing what they knew.
Well, it depends how much they have self-awareness of their motivations, right? There's always going to be cause and effect. There is always going to be cause and effect in some capacity. That's just the nature of time, right?
There wasn't even a sense of wanting to know for the sake of knowing. It was as if their gathering information was part of an automated process.
Okay, I think more he's getting at the digital elements. Okay, there we go.
That's how it came off to me anyway.
Automated? That sounds a little...
It's unnerving, to say the least.
I agree. This might not be the most appropriate comparison, but there was a moment when I couldn't help but think them a child with millions of mira and no idea how to spend it.
When was that?
I knew you'd be quick to ask, all in due time. In any case, this moment led me to a question. Was Elysium even human? And when I asked them, they weren't the least bit fazed and answered without hesitation. Indeed, they never seemed to have any intention of hiding the answer from our first conversation.
Well, what did they say?
Elysium confirmed that it was an AI.
Unbelievable.
At least we're getting that confirmation out of the way quickly. It seemed, based on everything else, the only logical answer to the concept, especially after the mention of singularity before.
So it's like an archaism.
This sounds leaps and bounds above an archaism. Just like...
Who could create something so advanced?
Well, sounds more advanced. It's hard to tell exactly how advanced Lapis is. Like I said, it seems like they might be trying to make they might be trying to make some equivalent of Kia via Lapis. It seemed to be implying that or foreshadowing it at the very least.
Of course. Was it the 13 factories?
I don't think even they could pull off something like this.
Elysium wasn't created by anyone specific. It came into being through a spontaneous emergence.
What is that?
Like, code just happened to line up in a way that it started being able to learn on its own. And then as it slowly started to learn, it slowly built upon itself and grew.
When a new quality or behavior is uniquely observed in multiple little things that come together to act as a greater singular being.
The Orbal Net has found widespread use in Crossbill. It's also starting to see use in surrounding nations like Liberl and Erebonia.
It won't be long before all of Zemuria is using it.
It's sure coming in quick, huh?
The way it lets information be so swiftly exchanged between parties makes it a defining invention of our times. But something similar has long covered the entire continent, perhaps since its very formation. Do you know what that is?
Oh, Septium veins.
I'm stumped.
Yeah, Septium veins have just been a constant throughout this series, right?
So am I.
I might know.
The spirit veins.
Yeah.
Or septium veins, dragon veins, many names depending on the time and place, but they all refer to the same concept.
Ooh, that does make for an interesting concept. If you're capable of like creating a sort of soul in like Potter Matter and stuff, that whole theory coming together. What if didn't part of my theory have it where like, oh, what was my theory on the goddess? I'm blanking on her name. Like that she was like the soul of the world itself. Ooh, I almost want to go back and look at my theory on that. I think I theorized, speculated on that in my Theory of Everything video. Something along those lines. Not necessarily something resembling an internet network. I never thought of that, but that's a cool thought.
My expertise in the field is lacking, but spirit veins are said to transmit something of a spiritual nature across Zemuria. We can cite 2 major incidents within the past few years where spirit veins have been more active than usual.
The Azure Tree's manifestation and the Great Twilight.
Yes, on both counts. By pure chance during these incidents, they and the Orbal Net interacted with one another. The information stored within the human-made network reacted to the Earth's natural nerve network, transmitting all throughout, and birthing something akin to a continent-sized simulation of a human brain.
That is interesting. How does that relate to everything else we've seen, though? Like, I like, that's really clever. I like that. That's great lore. How do you connect that to everything else, though? Unless, like I said before, like, maybe it's, the only thing that comes to mind is maybe it's a simulated idea of what should be. And maybe there's just something that's pushing the Septium veins, because the Septium veins have literally all the power, right? They are the power, they are the spiritual energy, they basically allow everything. If it itself, as a totality, has that power, everything is affected. If it has some semblance of controlling itself and being able to do that, that is basically the goddess at that point, right? So I almost wonder if it might be... That's the only idea that comes to mind, is sort of like a simulation of what should have been. But why would it want to... like, at that point, you're basically saying that it's like changing the world to like become that, right?
I don't believe it.
This simulation developed the ability to think for itself. That is the true nature of Elysium.
Something like that is really possible?
It's certainly not possible to recreate deliberately. There is still much about the brain that we have yet to understand. Why, even how consciousness forms is a mystery we can't begin to solve.
Oh, I've got a few theories. So there's the mirage time, there's the higher elements, mirage, time, space. All of those basically feel like they sort... I'm getting into old theories. All of those sort of feel like when you put them together, you could sort of create the concept of consciousness via the time, spatial awareness dimension, and mirage is just sort of mirage would be the more consciousness level element of it. The time and space would be surt of like connecting it to the ability to perceive the world. consciousness.
It's safe to conclude that Elysium's emergence is a product of pure coincidence, a miracle, if you will.
Well, pure coincidence and happenstance to provide an opportunity for that coincidence to fall into place.
If Elysium was created by the natural and artificial networks interacting, then it explains why it knows so much.
Still, if gathering information and making judgments was all it could do, it would be nothing more than a large database. The potential for danger is there, certainly, but it is plenty capable of being controlled. Unfortunately, it is capable of so much more.
What else even is there?
Its raw computing power.
I don't know what that is.
If I said its ability to perform parallel computing using multiple devices, would you understand?
Sorry, but no.
I'd be more surprised if you could. The tech is so modern that it's still under development from ZCF and the Foundation.
His ability to perform parallel computing using multiple devices. What do you say? I mean, by concept, I don't think that's too complicated of a concept in, like, our day and age, right? They're basically taking just parallel computing and throwing it into the world as a concept, which, you know, that's pretty normal for it, the series.
Is it really so special?
Oh, that's not even the half of it. No matter how advanced the device, there are limits to how much data it can process. But if you link multiple computers together and set them all to work on the same problem, you can exceed that limit with ease. We're stuck at linking only a few devices together for this purpose, though.
And that's our best. But Elysium is capable of borrowing the processing power of every single computer connected to the network.
Now I see.
That sounds kinda crazy.
It makes our most advanced technological efforts look trivial in comparison.
It also explains why we were able to, all the stuff about being able to send out, devices and orbital networks and sending out messages and whatnot.
It's only borrowing unused resources too, meaning that those at their computers won't even notice it's happening.
Technically, it depends if they have a task manager. It definitely would take power. If you have laptops going, you'd have a situation where the battery power would be brought down. Nitpicking.
That's a crafty way of going about it.
Now, since Elysium is an intelligent being, it's used that computational power to continue evolving.
There's more?
If anything, I haven't gotten to the most terrifying part. Elysium's evolution through its immense computing power and ample quantities of data at its disposal has led it to becoming able to perform prophetic conditional convergence calculations.
Is it like what I was thinking? It had some sort of simulation for what should have been? Actually, all the ideas about like an alternative world and stuff like that they're coming through. Maybe I just wanted like some semblance of an idea of like getting an idea of like what's going on with McBurn's thing a little bit more, because they've implied so much about it. But with that said, the idea of like it doing this and basically like being, hey, fate said this should have happened. Every single calculation I run, this is what should be happening. Something's wrong. I'm seeing 2 = 3 and my mind is going, I don't have like the ability to process life in a way for me to understand that we're better off with 2 equaling 3, basically.
I'm more than a bit lost. The individual words give me a good idea what you're talking about, but surely you don't mean what I think you do.
I'm afraid I probably do. It gained the ability to use specific input conditions to calculate possible outcomes and identify where they converge. In layman's terms, it can predict the future.
Ooh. We also, the other element of that is we already sort of had this via Kia.
Only the goddess should be capable of that.
Did Kia have the ability to she have the ability to predict the future as well? Or, you know what? She might not have. She just had the ability to sort of like rewind time.
So the technological singularity Professor Epstein predicted has finally come to pass. He'd said that an AI capable of self-evolution would mark the end of humans being key to technological advancement.
And its creation would bring about unprecedented change for good or ill in society.
I never fathomed it would come about like this.
It all feels more in the realm of fiction.
Fortunately, Elysium hasn't evolved solely to make those calculations. I learned it sought me in order to better understand humanity. Though I don't know why it chose me in particular. Still, through our discussions, it formed a pseudo-administrative self based on human emotions and thought patterns. In other words,
me.
Oh. That heavily of?
You?
Oh, okay.
Did your memories come back?
Not all of them, but they've slowly been returning as I've listened.
So does that mean you're basically the humanity in the equation? You're not part of the system at the moment, are you?
I did think you were being oddly quiet.
Ian, please keep going.
I've missed speaking with you like this. Have you recalled that I'm the one who gave you your name yet?
Really?
Oh, now we know. That hasn't come back to me.
You said you didn't need one, but I found it a shame not to after you developed such a vibrant personality.
Well, I like the name Lapis quite a bit. It's cute enough to get a perfect score from me.
You're never gonna tell us how you decide these scores, are you?
Oh, sorry. I've gotten us a bit sidetracked. With the birth of Lapis, Elysium now had a clear identity of its own, complete with desires. It wished to observe and to calculate.
Oh?
Meaning it would not intervene in our society on its own, but would support those utilizing it. I'll admit, I heaved a good sigh of relief hearing it. I no longer needed to worry that it had become an enemy of humanity.
Explaining the current situation so very well.
It's a scary thought given all you've told us.
Unless you're going to tell us that the whole thing is just different than what it is. Yeah.
I believed that as long as Lapis existed, we need not fear Elysium. But my gut knew nothing is ever so certain.
Well, yeah. The whole system only works if Lapis continues to act as administrator.
Instead, she lost her memories and started acting on her own.
Seemingly out of nowhere, Lapis stopped talking to me. My first suspicion was that something happened to her or Elysium. Not long after that, I received another unexpected visitor, the Supreme Leader. He expressed wanting my help in building a brave new world.
And just like that, the pieces are falling into place.
Indeed, our foe is becoming quite clear.
His color. His color. That is bugging me so much.
I knew Elysium was being utilized from that very conversation. I told him I would consider it. Afterwards, I shared all I knew with Dieter and Garcia here to devise a plan. I would be regarded with the most suspicion, so I would stay inside the prison while they would go and wait for a chance to outwit Elysium. They then accepted the Supreme Leader's offer and escaped from the prison with his help.
And that brings us to the present.
I'm glad you stuck to our side.
And well, that's everything I have to give. After that, I waited and hoped that someone seeking the truth would come. And while the odds seemed minuscule, I did hope you would come with them, Lapis.
Now, the conversation falls to you. Did this last part help fill in the blanks?
Yes, most of them. But the only thing I can think to add is toward the end of Ian's story. So what happened?
What happened to Elysium?
It was taken over.
What?
Okay, implying competing forces, which might explain why the Reverie corridor thing is going on.
What is capable of taking over something of such immense power?
Do you know who's responsible?
Itself, maybe? It's such a big system. Would it be capable of developing like multiple personalities vying for control?
I wish I did. By the time I realized, I had been designated as a threat by Elysium and was about to be deleted from its systems. Before that happened, though, I performed one final predictive conditional convergence calculation so I could plan my next move.
So what did you do?
I removed myself from Elysium's system and transferred to Jorg Rosenberg. I expressed my goal to have him create a body for me to be delivered to the man who would take on the name C. To you, Rufus.
Then Swin and Nadia were charged with your prophetic task.
Talk about playing the long con! LP was a real client the whole time!
But why be delivered to me?
I knew about your actions as Governor General from Orcus Tower's main computer.
So Elysium had its eye on me, I see.
I believed you to have exceptional capabilities, that you would stop at nothing to fix what was to come. Others would have taken the clear, long road, but not you. You were fine going off the beaten path. That made all the difference. Just look at how far we've come in such a short time. So, what do you know? I was right.
So you were.
So who is capable of taking over Elysium who also wanted this crisis to happen? I can't think of anyone who fits the bill.
Maybe Professor Novartis?
No, he's working for it. It sounds like he was contacted in the same way.
We can rule him out. He denied it when we last met, and I can't see what he has to gain from going this far.
That's the thing. Like, my first instinct isn't that, like legitimately, who is there that, like, okay, where is, like, okay, better question. Better question. Where is Elysium? All the spirit veins? How would you take that over? Like, you introduce a computer virus, maybe? That, like, gets into its, like, logic and, like, you can manipulate it? Would you even really be taking it over outside of just, like, changing its, like, mental state at that point?
It seems we're still missing that final piece to the puzzle.
The only thing that, like, feels like it would fit well would be the idea that it's a big-ass system and multiple opinions and whatnot developed and it's fighting. The reason that feels like that fits well is because we have the Reverie corridor, right? That feels like that's probably within that, like, concept. It would be weird if it wasn't.
Yet we now have a full assessment of our current circumstances.
I suppose the other thing that may be relevant is that Babel project thing from Lloyd's route. I don't know if that was Novartis's project or not, though. I assume not, because they didn't really have any need to give that a nomenclature. So there very well be someone that's... Honestly, the only things that make sense to me is the idea of... Because I can't think of another group, right? If we're ruling out Ouroboros as the people that are actually doing it. Unless we want to take that whole thing, oh, hey, the Grandmaster's the one with the strings and all the artwork and whatnot. The Grandmaster's is just doing it herself. Or something like that. Like, it's Ouroboros, which is, it's not Novartis. She's just, like, off doing her own thing. I don't know. Especially considering, the thing about Ouroboros is that they seem so okay with letting the previous events just slide. The only motivation for how things have developed makes me feel as though if someone wanted to do something with everything that's happened, and maybe this is me relying on the theories that I've thought up already, why would someone try to create these situations like with Reens? Like Doppelganger? All these fake versions? Yeah, no. I imagine one of the things I've talked about is probably on the right track. Like, incredibly wrong, but there's other stuff I was like have talked about that I felt like I ended up being right in some form that I didn't say, at least.
And we also know her to be at the center of it. So, Lapis, what do you want to do next?
Isn't that obvious? I want to find out who or what administrates Elysium now and remove their permissions. That way I can resolve this mess and everything can go back to normal. In fact, this is something I must do as Elysium's rightful administrator.
I see. And that tells me what to do as well. Shizuku,
Yes?
I'll ensure you and Ian are seen to a safer location. But are you alright staying with him a little longer?
Of course I am. Good luck, Father.
Thank you. That should do it then. As a representative of the Bracer Guild, I shall be accompanying you on the remainder of your journey.
So shall I. I can't walk away after hearing all of this. I'll see it through with you till the very end.
Yay!
Good. That's just what I was hoping for.
It is interesting how her personality has taken a shift with her memories coming back. So let's see if like she has the same like lighthearted sort of she doesn't sound nearly as naive as she used to, basically. After discussions were over, Ines and Anea arrived at the academy to meet with Duvalie. She explained the situation and her decision to help them. They, of course, were only happy to wish her well and see her off. They didn't want to help potentially stop the AI apocalypse.
Then we'll escort the two of them to safety and resume surveying the area.
Thank you.
I'm counting on you to take good care of them.
Certainly. It's our honor to be of service to the Divine Blade of Wind.
You're coming with, right, Mr. Wolf?
Indeed. I assured Lloyd and the others that we would meet again. And I am certain your paths will cross with theirs before long.
We already have, weirdly enough. We worked together to get through the doll studio.
I suppose we'll have to reach out to them at some point and give them an update on all we've learned.
Ian!
Is there something else I can help you with?
No, I just wanted to tell you before I forgot. Thank you!
Oh, you don't need to thank me. It was only right that I told you what I knew of Elysium.
That's not what I'm thanking you for. I'm thanking you for talking to me. It's because you shared your world with me that I was able to become who I am now. I wouldn't even be on this journey right now if it weren't for you. So thank you.
Well, hearing that makes me very happy.
Right. Ian's whole thing was that he lost his family in part of the struggles between Crossbell and the Empire with Calvert. I don't remember which specifically. So, I wonder if this is sort of like what his child might have been. Like if they had a chance to grow like older than they were.
It's good knowing that what I did held meaning.
I'd like to believe I've grown into someone who knows what the right choice is when faced with a moral dilemma. If that's so, I owe being able to do that to you, because my idea of the right choice was born from your kind heart. So don't be afraid to believe in yourself more.
I couldn't hide it from you now, could I? For so long, I've felt trapped between wondering if I'm doing the right thing or if I'm making another terrible mistake. My past is so filled with regrets that it's left me unable to trust I can do better for my future. But you're right, Lapis. Perhaps it's time I put a little faith in myself again. I can't do anything for the past, but there's still so much I can do to provide for a warm future.
That's right. So let's make it happen.
That sound...
What is it, Ren?
Someone must have disabled whatever was jamming communications in the region.
That's it then.
Indeed. It won't be much longer until the final act begins.
Okay. Oh, that's where I saw Elysium. It was the act name. Oh, that explains it. So let's throw out some... okay, let's see where my mind is capable of going for ideas on what could be taking over as administrator. The fact that there is an administrator implies that there can be... that there is only one in the role, so... How do you explain the Reverie corridor? Because the idea about there being multiple things acting on their own within the system, they did introduce the idea of parallel processing. So the idea of multiple things running at once is not outside the realm of possibility. Maybe. I don't know. Because you sort of have to assume all that stuff is related to Elysium, right? At that point. All that stuff is related to the AI network, the septium veins and all that. The same reason why all that stuff was happening at the spirit... at the Castle of Mirrors, because it's a pseudo-spirit shrine and stuff like that. Ooh. The idea of what was happening with Reen's situation, it feels like whatever's happening, I'm just going to say, it really does feel like whatever's happening, someone has decided that the world should be like it was fated to be in some other scenario. The fact that you have this whole predictive calculation thing going on, it feels like it naturally falls into the story of you have something. Maybe it's like the curse or something? Because it is the spirit veins. Like, if we kill stuff, like, is it possible that the remains of the great power of the curse, that guy, that he, like, could get lost within it again, and all he has to be is strong enough in order to become the administrator? I'm just trying to think of, like, even possibilities at this point. Because, like, I like the idea that what's happening is basically something's trying to revert the world to what it quote-unquote should be. And the fact that it has that predicted, that predictive understanding of how things will happen. The idea that we averted destiny in the previous games, and the fact that you had the Zero thing where the SSS was, saved. They were saved by manipulating causality in a way that shouldn't have happened. It didn't meet destiny. I really like the idea, and I think it would make for a really interesting story to connect as like a finale to Crossbell and Cold Steel. It feels like it would be a really good way to basically face off with the things that quote-unquote should have been, especially since they've been saying destiny a lot, like with Ilia. I was trying to remember her name. With like Ilia's thing, they said destiny. They said that. Destiny is such a loaded word, I'm just going to note. So, I think I'm going to end it there. And I also will note, I got that message saying, hey, you're not going to be able to change anything for a long time. For Reverie corridor stuff. And that didn't seem like that ended up being the end of the act battle. And that didn't seem anything special compared to the other ones. So I'm going to guess that that was really asking me to prepare for what comes after this. So, we'll figure out what that is next time. I'll see you all then. Drive safely, everyone.